This is the touching story of an American woman who, as if by fate, meets a man from Kenya in a foreign land. They fall in love, have children, and build a family together. Sarah Miller was a promising 29-year-old employee in the Overseas Operations Department of a major American corporation. Regarded as a rising star within the company, she secretly hoped for a transfer to a European branch or even a more prestigious assignment within the US. However, on the day of personnel announcements, she was unexpectedly informed that she had been selected as an expatriate employee for Kenya, Africa, although she was told it would be an interesting and challenging mission. A vague fear of the continent of Africa and the country of Kenya, about which she had little information, also crept in. When she was selected as an expatriate, Sarah received congratulations from her superiors along with a brief overview of the project she would be undertaking. The company was forming a task force, TF, to simultaneously promote sustainable agriculture and social impact projects locally. And Sarah was slated to be at its center. Though puzzled, Sarah, due to her diligent nature, realized she couldn't avoid the task already assigned to her and began to gather information step by step. She steeled her resolve by studying Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, its surrounding areas, and methods for collaborating with locals. Upon arriving at the airport, the African air, something she had never experienced before, and the intense heat of the dry season enveloped her entire body. While going through immigration and waiting for her luggage, Sarah felt a complex mix of anxiety and excitement. At the same time, her heart began to pound in a corner of her mind, as she couldn't imagine how her experiences here would unfold. Soon after arriving, she was guided by an American team leader working at the Kenya branch. He reassured her, saying, "You might have many preconceptions about Africa, but it'll be different once you experience it directly. No matter how dangerous some aspects might be, places where people live always have a warm side." His words turned out to be true. For the first few weeks, her adaptation was surprisingly fast. However, unexpected cultural differences, both big and small, began to fluster Sarah. For example, it was commonplace for locals to arrive late even when a meeting time was set. And if she pushed for rapid progress as was common in her fast-paced American work environment, the other party sometimes took offense. Also, while English was generally understood in communications with business partners, there were times when Swahili was necessary, requiring her to frequently find an interpreter. Furthermore, security issues kept Sarah on edge. She was constantly warned about pickpocketing and theft occurring in various places. Although Kenya initially seemed unfamiliar and dangerous, Sarah gradually became accustomed to the people and places around her. After work, she would challenge new tastes by enjoying traditional dishes like ugali and nyama choma with local colleagues. Occasionally, she would also watch traditional dance performances held on the outskirts of Nairobi, letting her body move to the lively beats. All of these were valuable experiences that broadened Sarah's life. One day, as the project was slowly taking shape, a meeting was arranged with a representative from a local partner company. This company was an NGO-like enterprise that exported and imported agricultural products while also engaging in activities to help the local community achieve self-reliance. At the meeting venue, Sarah was introduced to a man with the title of chairman of the board. He was Joshua Olol, a man from western Kenya who grew up in a traditional Luo village. Tall and well-built with a determined expression, Joshua possessed a uniquely warm smile. He greeted Sarah in fluent English, albeit with an accent. After brief introductions, they began discussing business. Joshua's way of speaking was sincere and intuitive. He believed that support for agriculture was the key driving force that would change Kenya's future. And he passionately explained that if this project succeeded, it would bring great hope to the local residents. Sarah was deeply moved by his passion. Unlike people at her company who approached such projects merely with numbers, Joshua placed the lives and people of the region at the center. As the meeting was drawing to a close, Joshua suggested that Sarah visit the site in person. Sarah readily agreed, and it was decided that she, along with her project team members, would visit his farm and a nearby village over the weekend. Joshua's farm, located in the Bongo region, was situated near a lake in western Kenya. There, amidst vast plains, dazzling sunshine, and an endlessly clear sky, Sarah felt as if she were experiencing the majesty of nature with her whole body. The scenery was beautiful, but the daily lives of the people living there were in a much more difficult environment than she had imagined. Access to stable drinking water and medical support was lacking, and employment opportunities were limited. Sarah met the children there and was moved by their bright smiles. The children wore old clothes, but their playful laughter and chatter seemed so innocent. Joshua said he was looking for ways to help these young lives that needed care. Through this site visit, Sarah began to realize, deep in her heart, that the work she was doing had a meaning beyond a simple job. However, while touring the farm, a protest suddenly erupted near the road, causing chaos. On that particular day, a conflict over road development in the vicinity of the village had led to a severe confrontation between local residents and the local administrative authorities. As the protesters passed by, throwing stones and scratching cars, people at the scene scattered in disarray. Sarah tried to protect her companions, but she couldn't help but panic in the unexpected emergency. At that moment, Joshua rushed over, grabbed Sarah's arm, and quickly moved her to a safer place. Even in the crowd, he remained calm, leading her into a side alley and urging her not to let go. Holding Joshua's hand and running, Sarah was once again amazed by the strength and leadership this man displayed. After escaping the dangerous situation, Sarah and Joshua caught their breath and talked for a while in a corner of the local village hall, which had been set up as a temporary shelter. Sarah gently released Joshua's hand, which she had been gripping tightly, and looked a little embarrassed. "Thank you," she said. "I don't know what would have happened if you weren't there." Joshua smiled as if it were nothing and replied, "Now that you're here, it's my job to protect you." In that short conversation, Sarah once again felt that Joshua was a truly warm person. He seemed like a strong and resolute individual on the outside, but in reality, he was sincere in his care and protection of those around him. After that day, Sarah and Joshua grew closer, frequently contacting each other outside of project schedules, sharing updates on the local situation, and participating in volunteer activities together. Perhaps because they came from different cultures, languages, and life experiences, every conversation brought new discoveries and realizations. Sarah listened intently to the Kenyan traditional culture and customs that Joshua shared. And Joshua, in turn, was impressed as he learned about American organizational culture and industrial development experiences. Gradually, they became comfortable and familiar with each other's presence. Like old friends, it seemed natural that romantic feelings blossomed between Sarah and Joshua. However, when Sarah actually acknowledged these feelings, a flood of complex thoughts rushed in. "We grew up in such different environments, and I've only recently arrived to carry out my expatriate duties. If I have to return to my home country after my mission is complete, what will happen to this relationship?" A wave of anxiety washed over her. But as the project progressed, the two had frequent work-related interactions and many days where they met or contacted each other. As a result, hiding their emotions became almost impossible. Joshua understood Sarah's worries but confessed his true feelings, saying, "Do borders matter when you love someone?" Eventually, they decided to become an official couple. A few of Sarah's colleagues subtly tried to dissuade her, but no one could directly stop this love. She couldn't muster the courage to tell her family back in the States right away. So she merely hinted at her feelings by saying she had made a good friend in Africa. After becoming a couple, Sarah and Joshua spent even more time together. On weekends when there was no work, they would visit nearby nature parks or churches in Nairobi, share meals, and participate in volunteer activities at local community centers. In this process, the Joshua that Sarah saw was an even deeper and warmer person. His life story, having received a scholarship to attend university despite extreme poverty in his childhood, and then returning to his hometown to start an agricultural business, was an inspiration to people. However, when Sarah confessed her relationship to her parents in the US. They were shocked. As expected, concerns like, "Kenya, Africa, are you okay?" were voiced, along with dissatisfied tones asking, "What will you do if you even think about getting married?" Sarah calmly tried to persuade her parents, but it was not an issue that could be easily resolved at once. Joshua, knowing Sarah was struggling with family issues, wanted to help in any way he could. "How about introducing me to your parents directly? Even though we're far apart, we can at least have a video call," he suggested. Sarah hesitated but eventually mustered the courage to connect with her parents via video call. Awkward greetings were exchanged at first, but when Joshua said in fluent English, "Your daughter is a truly smart and wonderful person. I am proud of her," Sarah's parents seemed to slowly open their hearts. It wasn't perfect, but at least the fact that this man genuinely cared for Sarah seemed to have been conveyed. As time passed, a series of incidents destabilized the entire region of Kenya. The influx of refugees due to border disputes, political conflicts, and soaring prices due to economic crises led to an unstable social atmosphere. The project Sarah was involved in also faced various problems, such as reduced budget support and delays in various approval processes. In particular, as the security situation worsened, there were discussions within Sarah's headquarters about considering the early withdrawal of American expatriates for safety reasons. Since cases of large corporations downsizing their African operations were increasing, Sarah was not immune to this crisis. If the headquarters ordered a withdrawal, Sarah would have to return to the US. Joshua also wore a grave expression as the collaborative project with his company faced the risk of suspension. He was upset, thinking, "If people leave like this, all the efforts and hopes we've built up will come to nothing." Sarah, too, found it difficult to accept the suspension, believing that this project was giving at least some hope to the local residents. An expatriate meeting was held at the headquarters level, and Sarah participated remotely, passionately arguing for the necessity of continuing the project. "If we withdraw now, it's no different from inflicting a double wound on the local residents. We must fulfill our social responsibility." Some executives responded positively to her persuasion. However, it was agreed to review the final decision after a little more time. After the meeting, Sarah and Joshua discussed the future. "But if the company decides to withdraw me, what should I do?" Sarah asked in a trembling voice. Joshua looked at her for a long time. His gaze contained a mixture of firm support for whatever she decided, and at the same time, a desperate plea for her not to leave. Eventually, Joshua said frankly, "I don't want to lose you. I have to stay here and work for the villages. But if you have to go back, what will happen to our relationship?" Sarah's heart was also conflicted. She could have a stable life in the US, but she would have to give up the person she loved and the potential of the project. Conversely, if she stayed in Kenya, she would have to risk both her safety and comfort. However, Sarah's answer was surprisingly firm. "Even if I return to the US, I think I'll come back eventually. My heart is with you here." Despite the uncertain situation of the project, Sarah and Joshua decided to become a family. Sarah proposed, "Let's have a simple wedding first. If we get a chance to go to the US later, we can have a celebration with my family there then." And Joshua agreed. The wedding ceremony was held at a church near Joshua's hometown village. It was a modest but heartfelt ceremony. Sarah's American colleagues, as well as village residents and Joshua's relatives, gathered to bless the couple. When Joshua appeared in traditional attire, Sarah felt a mix of surprise and a lump in her throat. Rather than thinking, "How did I end up marrying someone from such a different culture?" the thought, "It's because of this person that I've come to love this land even more," resonated more strongly in her heart. Even after marriage, Sarah continued her role as an expatriate in Kenya, although the headquarters tried to scale down the project due to overlapping problems. Sarah worked closely with the local community, striving to maintain at least minimal resources. The village residents warmly welcomed Sarah as our neighborhood's American daughter-in-law. As time passed, news that Sarah was pregnant with their first child brought cheers from everyone. The fact that a child with mixed American and Kenyan blood would be born was a special and wondrous event for the villagers as well. During her pregnancy, celebration parties were held in the village, and the sight of residents preparing traditional food felt like a dream to Sarah. The process of giving birth was not easy. Local hospital facilities in Kenya were lacking compared to those in the US. And there were concerns about various complications in late pregnancy. However, with the wholehearted support of Joshua, the villagers, and the branch office staff, she safely gave birth to a son. After much thought, wanting a name that symbolized both cultures, they named their son Ethan, a common American name, and Aro, a traditional Luo name. The birth of this new life, wished for by everyone, brought Sarah and Joshua an indescribable, overwhelming joy. After becoming a family, Sarah and Joshua faced new challenges. They were expecting another child. During a busy time caring for their firstborn, Sarah announced her second pregnancy. By now, she had gained more experience, and the support from those around her was abundant. They shared joy rather than anxiety. The villagers rejoiced along with them. While raising two children, Sarah came to understand Kenya's socio-cultural characteristics more deeply. In particular, she was moved by the strong extended family concept in Kenyan traditional culture, where the entire village seemed to raise the children together. If a child cried or fussed, a neighbor would be the first to run over and soothe them, often saying with a smile, "You are already a child of this village, so everyone will raise you." Such experiences taught Sarah a great deal. She realized that life isn't just about oneself, but about a community living together. Sarah, who had previously known only the demanding pace of work in the US, was building richer human relationships here. Joshua, watching Sarah, encouraged her, saying, "You've truly become a person of this village now. I have much to learn from you." Sarah and Joshua decided to expand their volunteer activities for indigenous villages. Beyond the company's project, they personally launched a campaign to create a small library for children's education. When they collected notebooks, textbooks, and simple learning materials to create a space where children could study anytime, the villagers expressed their gratitude with bright smiles. Furthermore, Sarah connected with her acquaintances in the US to receive donations of used tablets or e-book readers, striving to provide a learning environment where modern technology and traditional culture could coexist. In this process, some American sponsors realized that Africa is not just a place to be pitied or to only receive help, and it had the positive effect of vitalizing exchanges with Kenya. The couple occasionally visited the US to meet Sarah's family, and Joshua showed great enthusiasm for learning about American culture. He was initially surprised by the richness of some American dishes, like a classic Thanksgiving turkey or a hearty barbecue, but he soon developed a taste for them, even coming to enjoy things like pizza and burgers with the kids. As time went by, Sarah's parents also grew fond of Joshua and the grandchildren, eventually offering their support, saying, "As long as you are happy together, it doesn't matter where you live." As time flowed and the two children had grown to some extent, more joyous news arrived for Sarah and Joshua. She was pregnant with the third child. In fact, they both wanted a larger family, and the village also cheered him on, saying, "If we hear more baby sounds in our village will become more lively." Sarah knew that this pregnancy meant greater responsibility. Now, moving beyond simply being a company project manager, living as a member of the village, as a mother, and simultaneously as one pillar of a multicultural family would inevitably be a bigger challenge. However, she was ready to embrace the entire process, thanks to the love and learning she had already gained here. Joshua, too, thinking of the future with the third child, led his business and volunteer activities more actively. In addition to the already stable agricultural base, he was also setting up an online platform to introduce local specialty products to overseas markets. "I hope the world our children grow up in will be better. And we must create that world ourselves," he said, and Sarah empathized. The future that Sarah, Joshua, and the three children will create has not yet fully unfolded. However, what is clear is that their choices, efforts, and love have already provided immense inspiration and hope to many. This village, where Sarah from the United States and Joshua from the Kenyan Luo tribe have taken root together, has now become such a warm and familiar space that the expression, "our family's hometown," is insufficient. The locals call them family, and they, in turn, collaborate with other families, dreaming of greater change. The anxiety and fear Sarah first felt, and the responsibility and concerns Joshua bore, have now been replaced by love and hope, becoming nourishment to be passed on to a new generation. The family formed by two people from different roots, Africa and the United States, who met and fully understood each other, and the children born and raised within it, will grow into beings who transcend the boundaries of race, language, and culture, and it is beyond doubt that this family will continue to share much more and view the world with even greater love. Looking back, Sarah and Joshua's story is not just a simple love story. It is the practice of humanism that transcends borders, language, race, and cultural differences, and a process that proves the ordinary truth that wherever you go in this world, it is ultimately a place where people live. Through marriage, they not only completed their love but are also showing new possibilities to the world with their children. The fruits of that love. The path these two different people have walked was by no means smooth. They had to endure numerous trials, including political and economic crises, family opposition, cultural clashes, and safety issues. However, the strength that enabled them to overcome everything was ultimately their firm will to be together and their love. This family, with their third child soon to be born, is already a precious presence to the villages. People gather at the sound of the children's laughter, and more people are eager to joyfully participate in the volunteer projects Sarah and Joshua undertake together. They grow every day, learning from each other and from the local community. The message this story can convey is clear. The truth that love makes all things possible is unfolding beyond borders and races. And the power of that love can create miracles that no one could ever anticipate. Thus, the future that Sarah, Joshua, and their children will create will continue. Life is never determined in a single moment, and the countless moments of connection created when different lives meet weave an endless story. We remember that warm humanity and humanism are embedded in every step this family takes. And we hope that the story of this beautiful family will provide comfort and become a driving force to move the hearts of many more people in the distant future.